Hi, I'm Gohar Vardanyan, and this is a Lessonette for strings by mail. In this short Lessonette, I'm going to talk about shifting with your left hand from a higher position to a lower position. And the reason I'm isolating this particular shift is because it's usually harder to get from a higher position to a lower one than it is to do the opposite. And by high and low, I mean the pitches that we're actually hearing, so not necessarily its relationship to the ground, because technically this is higher than this, but we refer to this position as the higher position because the pitches that we hear are higher. So going from a lower position to a higher position, it's easier because it just follows gravity. So if you just relax your hand would want to return to its natural state, which is down here with the elbow and not the elbow here. Going backwards, however, you have to make greater effort. So a lot of times what happens with beginners is that when they have to shift from a higher note to a lower one, it's this very rigid movement that happens. And that not only looks kind of robotic, but it also will sound robotic. And unless the movement itself is graceful, it will be very difficult to make it sound graceful as well. So what you want to learn to do is, instead of playing this, you need to learn to be more graceful with the left hand. So when I shift from, let's say, this G to this D, I don't just move my hand, the entire thing, but I start the movement with my elbow. And then it's this feeling of something pulling my hand from the back of my wrist and pulling it back. So in slow motion, it's something like this. Of course, when you actually play it, the movement is a lot quicker. But you can see that this happens for an instant and then my hand moves back. So it actually shortens the distance that you have to move to. So instead of doing this whole thing, you're just moving your hand. And your elbow moves less as well. So it's in the flexibility of the wrist without really losing any good form. And this can apply to chords, or more fuller chords. Either one, whatever you do, you want to make sure you're moving more gracefully. So practice just on one note. You can start with the second finger, going to a second finger, or first finger to a second on different strings. Then you can start a little higher. What you're practicing is this motion of gliding on a string and getting there, so that without losing any form, without doing too much of it, you're gracefully getting back. Now be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to, this is not what you're going for. What you need is just a tiny little lift before you let go of the high note to get to a lower position. And you can practice, there's numerous number of shifts that you can practice from different technique books. It really doesn't matter what you use. You can come up with your own. You can play a note here and then you can shift to a second finger. You can shift to a third finger, increasing the distance that you're moving. You can go from a 1 to a 4. It doesn't really matter. You can challenge yourself however you want. The main thing is to learn the graceful movements, because then if you actually implement that into pieces, it will sound more graceful, more legato, and without any rigidity in it. So I hope this helps you with your shift. Thank you so much for watching.